So, who is typically involved in a deal throughout the steps of lending?
Yeah. So you have your borrower, and that's the person who is, using the money that you're lending, right? And so this person, you want to make sure you vetted them. But if you're in the first position, they themselves are a little bit less important than if you were lending in the second, third, et cetera position, right? Because you're really focused primarily on the property when you're in first position. But the borrower is still important, so they still play a huge role. You may also have a realtor that could potentially be involved in the transaction. A lot of these scenarios, if the realtor is involved, it's not necessarily like what you would consider a traditional sale. It's more of this person is like a referral or something like that, just because these tend to be really deeply discounted properties. And usually, when a realtor is involved, they're getting top dollar and it's a beautiful property that's being sold, but not always. So you may have a realtor involved. You will certainly have a title company involved. So we like to send all of our money to the title company or escrow. Or an attorney, just depending on the state. So some states use title escrow and some states use attorney. Either way, one or the other will definitely be included, and you will do all of your funds that will be wired as the lender will go through title. So let's say there's a borrower, he's going to fix and flip the property. There's not going to ever be a scenario where you're going to, using that same example from before, that $100,000 as is value, you're loaning them the 65,000. You never are going to wire your money as a lender directly from your bank account to their bank account. It instead goes through escrow so it can be tracked. So it's going to hit the attorney, it's going to hit the title company, it's going to go through that process so that everybody knows who's involved and they can make sure that the paper trail looks legit. So like I mentioned, we have the borrower, we have the lender, of course, is you. We have potentially a realtor, we have the title, we have the attorney. We also maybe have a wholesaler, and a wholesaler is the person who is getting the property under contract and then turning around and selling that contract. So they're not a real estate agent, but the concept is somewhat similar, but in this instance, they're selling the contract or the rights to purchase the property that they own at that point in time because they have it under contract themselves. So there may be a wholesaler and there will certainly be a seller. And the seller is obviously the person who currently owns the property or represents that the interests of the person who owns the property. So it could be something that's in, going through probate or, foreclosure or something like that. There may be other parties representing the actual seller themselves, but the seller certainly will be involved too.
What is escrow and why is the money that I'm lending going into the escrow account?
Yeah, so if I wired you money right now, there would be really no paper trail besides just my bank account showing that I wired money. But when it goes through escrow, they're making sure that the proper steps are being taken. Because if I wire the money directly to that person who's buying the property for the 65,000, and I wire them 65,000, there's nothing out there that's keeping them from also turning around and soliciting the next person for 65,000 and the person after that for 65,000 and the person over here for 65,000. And then everybody says, "Oh, 65,000. Yeah, we're a-okay." But you have four people who've loaned 65,000 on a property and you don't know if any of those are going to be recorded, and if they are, in what order they're going to be recorded, like we talked about earlier. So it's really important to make sure that it goes through escrow because they're the ones who are going to be doing that recording. They're going to be making sure that you're set up in that first position like you think they are. You're going to know if there's any other funds that are involved, where they are, how many other liens they're going to have on the property, anything else like that. They're doing the title commitment and making sure that this property can even be purchased. Right? Is it clouded title? Is there anything weird going on in the background? Is there judgments on the property that can't be erased? Is there a tax lien that needs to be taken care of? Any of those weird things that can happen with properties, they're making sure that that's getting eliminated at that time.
Be clear, so escrow is kind of an account that is held at a title company, correct?
That's correct.
So a third party that technically doesn't have interest of the borrower or the lender, correct, where they're holding the money.
That's correct.